All systems go. Cleared for takeoff.
What is going on, SHIPIT Nation YouTube family? We're back with another episode of the Witching Hour Show. I got my guy Hoop. Obviously, I'm Nadesify here. And real quick, top of the hour breaking news. I know the early slate does start pretty quickly here. If you have not seen from Underdog, the Phillies-Detroit game did get postponed. So make sure you get those guys out of your lineups. I know Zach Wheeler was a pretty popular option. The Phillies, obviously, as well. So make sure if you are playing the early slate on FanDuel or DraftKings, you do take those guys out of your teams. I know Hoop had to make a couple of changes. That's why we're a couple minutes late, so we apologize there. But there's money to be made, and you don't want some fat zeros sitting in your lineup there. So that game has been postponed, and we'll talk about it as well on this slate. The Yankees and White Sox has also gotten postponed, and that's pretty big news, Hoop. We'll break it down once we get to game by game, but Mr. 50K, how are we doing? Happy Wednesday. How was your MLB slate last night? How are we doing, man?
Yeah, went well last night. Had a profitable night. Played mostly cash games, not too much in the GPP streets. And, went well. Just kind of scrambling here, like you said. I mean, this whole situation with the Phillies game getting canceled. If you played the early slate on FanDuel, they locked it 4-10, so just locked. So kind of making some changes. Wheeler would have been the popular pitcher, and then the Phillies offense would have been the most popular offense. So obviously had a lot of those guys making some of these changes here on the fly. But in terms of the main slate, yeah, I mean, it definitely makes some changes that slate as well, especially with the 4K pitcher Vasquez looking to be very, very popular. He was probably going to be super popular because there's just not many pitching options. And now he's off the slate. So now we're going to have to kind of, make some adjustments here on the fly and figure out, where we're going to go at pitcher. It's a tough one.
Yeah, you brought it up. Vasquez was 4K. Obviously, this pitching slate is probably the worst we've seen it all year so far. So everyone is kind of they just seem to happen, right, with the Reds prospect making his debut against the Brewers 4K. You needed him to win. So everyone was kind of, hey, this pitching slate's gross. I don't really want to play Corbin Burnes at the top. And I don't want to play really Max Scherzer against the Braves. So let me just plug in Randy Vasquez, right, against the White Sox here at 4K. But that is no longer an option. Obviously, he's not on the slate anymore. So I was expecting probably 40 to 50% ownership, maybe even higher and higher stakes. So the slate kind of just flipped on its head from a pitching perspective there a little bit. But we'll break it down for you guys real quick off the top here. A little housekeeping. Like button would be great if you are in here and you have not hit the like button yet. What are you doing? You're sleeping at the mouse. Just move that little mouse down right below Hoop's mug there, right below the SHIPIT Nation, and click that little thumbs up button. We do appreciate it over here. And we are at 910 subscribers. Made some incredible ground yesterday. Let's push for 950. I'll keep it there for the people. If we do get to 975 on this video, maybe I'll give a 3-man stack away or something like that, and 2 pitchers for the people to respond there. So if you have not subscribed yet, we are doing giveaways once we get to 1,000 subscribers. So 90 subscribers away, we're going to do a pretty big giveaway here on the YouTube channel for someone free and someone in the chat here. We definitely appreciate that. Appreciate you guys helping us out, trying to grow this brand new channel over here for SHIPIT Nation. Hoop, let's dive in here. We got a 9-game slate now, obviously with the game getting scratched. Let's dive into pitching. Let's take over this top range. I'll go Charlie Morton all the way up to Corbin Burnes. Some interesting guys in here. Corbin Burnes likely just increased his ownership quite a bit with Vasquez getting scratched. I was seeing about 30%-ish on Corbin Burnes. Talk on Corbin Burnes, Logan Webb, you got Max Scherzer, you got Bassett Hound there, and Charlie Morton rounded it out.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, the options are not super appealing when you start going top to bottom here. But Burns, I think, definitely stands out. He's at home here against Baltimore, 10.2K. He's been solid in, I don't know, most of the games. He had one stinker against Houston, but you can give him the free passer. I mean, Houston's one of the best offenses in baseball, and you start looking at some of these other guys in this upper range, the matchups are just like brutal for these guys, just not appealing at all. So I think it's got to be Burns by default. You have Logan Webb in Coors, some weather concerns there. Max Scherzer has not looked great. Now gets one of his tough. Well, actually, he has been great lately, but prior to that, he was struggling. But gets a tough matchup against Atlanta, 9.7K. And the Atlanta team total sitting at 5. So Vegas thinks that they're going to have success against Scherzer. Bassett, tough matchup at home against Houston. And then Charlie Morton checking in at 9.2K. Don't mind him, but man, for me in this range, it's going to be Burns. And, I probably won't have much exposure to anyone else up here.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you here. Burns is kind of just the de facto for me. It's just the nature of the pitching slate. I really don't care the ownership, to be honest with you. I played Freddie Peralta last night against the Orioles, and he did fine. Really not expecting Aaron Hicks to come out and hit a couple home runs again. We know the drill with Aaron Hicks. Not a very powerful hitter there. He's obviously seeing the baseball pretty well right now. He is batting fifth at 2,500 here. But overall, this Orioles lineup that they rolled out, I mean, they got Josh Lester down here at the bottom, Ryan O'Hearn, Gunnar Henderson even. All those guys are over 30% K rate. And then Jorge Mateo has been striking out a decent amount too down there at the bottom. So the back half of this lineup is pretty weak for these Orioles. They haven't been good. Implied run total is sitting under 4. And overall, I just think Burns can go out there and get it done. I know everyone, his pitch count concern hasn't been there. He's had some control issues, but he did just have some pretty high strikeout games. Obviously, if he goes out and gets 6 to 8 strikeouts, which I expect, I'll take that on this slate because we don't have any incredible aces by any means on here. Max Scherzer is an interesting talking point on the slate. I know the Braves, do have pretty healthy implied run total here, but it is still Max Scherzer. I mean, he's been incredible. Even one of those starts was in Coors, right, if I'm not mistaken. But he's heading into Truist Park. It's a good hitting park. Good weather in Atlanta. I have to assume. I haven't looked at the forecast in general in Atlanta, but I mean, this Braves lineup that they rolled out is actually pretty good. Only a 23% K rate. So I think Vegas kind of is under on Max Scherzer here, but he's a interesting pivot there. He does have a very healthy projection on our tools over here at SHIPITNation.com. The guy that for me up here that's kind of interesting is Logan Webb. I get it. He's in Coors Field. I get the weather is good in Coors Field, slight wind blowing out, decent weather. But this Giants lineup this Rockies, lineup, 25% strikeout rate. Logan Webb's been good, 27% strikeout rate on the year. Expected ERA under 4. Overall, I think he can go out there and get the job done, right? I mean, the Rockies, even in Coors, don't really scare me too much. So if you're looking for a pivot at the top range here, I'm seeing sub 10% ownership on Logan Webb. I think that's an interesting pivot, but he is expensive. The rest of these guys I'm out on. I'm not playing Bassett against Houston and Charlie Morton. The Mets just don't strike out for me. So for him to get there at 9,200, could he do it? Yeah, absolutely. It's baseball, but I'm just not going to go there. I don't feel confident attacking these Mets because they have a 18% strikeout rate here. So overall, off this range, Corbin Burns far and away number 1 for me, much like it will be for everyone else. But I'm kind of just okay eating that chalk. Hoop, we talked about it. You ship 50K with a pretty chalky, the chalk pitcher combo and the chalk stack, but you still had batters that were sub 5% in there. And I think there's a way to do that again here tonight. So I'm not really worried about Corbin's ownership here. It's just the nature of the pitching slate. It's a pretty ugly slate that we have. And people just lost their free square in the 4K guy from New York. So it's going to be interesting to see where ownership goes here. Hoop, let's talk on the next range here. Let's go Let's go 8,900 all the way down to 7K. We'll hit on the value guys because I know you have interest in one guy in particular. We'll hit on those guys at the end. But go Berea all the way up to John Gray at the top, and talk in particular some of those guys in the middle there, Lance Lynn and Tanner Beebe, both expected to get 20+% ownership I'm looking at.
Well, I hope Lynn still gets 20% ownership, considering the game's not going to be played. So that would be a real nice one.
Good call.
That would be awesome. John Gray at the top, I think, is somewhat interesting. Like the Cardinals' better team, obviously, against left-handed pitching. Gray has been really good, and he's flashed the upside too. I mean, he's had at least 27 fantasy points in what is that, like freaking 4 out of his last 5 starts. Like, I actually like him quite a bit in tournaments here. 8.9K at home, has big upside. I don't think he's be all that highly owned. BB, like you talked about, 8.5K at home against Boston. Boston's team total is really low. That game total is really low. I think he's clearly an option. And I know you have more to say about him. Going to be off like the rest of these guys that will play Berea at 7K at home against the Cubs. Pretty decent favorite there, so I think he's in play. But yeah, honestly, Gray and Beebe are the guys I'm looking at. I prefer those guys way more than the guys in that 9K range that we talked about. So Gray, Beebe, and Berea are the guys I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, that even shakes up pitcher even more because obviously Lance Lynn and Vasquez were both going to get – I mean, Vasquez was going to be pushing 40% plus. Lynn was probably going to be right around 25-ish%. So, I mean, you're talking 60 to 70% ownership on pitchers that just got scratched from this slate. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. For me in this range, my number one on the slate, all things considered, I think, is actually Tanner Beebe here. About 11 miles an hour wind blowing in that park there in Fenway, right around 60 degrees, pretty cold as well. And I just like attacking this Boston team here. So I do think Beebe can get the job done at 8,500. He is going to get ownership, obviously, but I just don't really care, to be honest with you. It's just I'm going to put my faith in the guys I trust at pitcher tonight here with this kind of slate that we have. Flaherty, I know people are talking about him in the chat. I saw that. This Texas lineup did get pretty weak here compared to what we have seen in the past. Obviously, no Duran there in the lineup. Sandy Leon is going in. No Mitch Garver. Josh Smith is in the lineup as well. So, I mean, that's 7, 8, and 9 all have a strikeout rate of 30% plus against right-handed pitching. But I still can't do it. I still can't pitch a right-handed pitcher against Texas while they're at home. I can't do it. Especially a guy like Flaherty, who's kind of skated by all season. We've talked about it a lot, Hoop. He's kind of just had Babbitt on his side, right? He's kind of just went out there and got lucky and things like that. I think that changes here tonight with Texas. I don't mind Texas here. Again, I mean, they don't have the implied run total that they've had the last couple games, but it's still close to 5 here. So I'm off of Flaherty there. And then out on everyone else in this range, I know people might look at Dean Kramer here against the Brewers, which could make some sense. I'm not a Dean Kramer guy. He's got a sub 20% strikeout rate, barrel rate over 10%. I just can't do it. I'm out on him. I'm just not a Dean Kramer guy. And then my only other interest would be Berea, like you, kind of lockstep there. I mean, this Cubs team on the road so far, 28% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. I get that they have power in that lineup, but this projected lineup that they're projected to roll out here, Hoop, is pretty ugly. So I do think Berea at 7K even does make some sense there. Let's talk on the rest of these guys. Cutter Crawford, obviously Vasquez is scratched, but I know you have interest in one guy down here. Touch on him and then touch on anyone else that you might look at down here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pitching slate where, man, it's just not all that good. Even the names up here just don't have the best matchup. So a couple guys that I'm interested in. I'll start with Blanco. A reliever, got his first start last time out and was fine against the Angels, picked up 16 fantasy points. He's 5.2K. He's facing Toronto. Can he survive and get 15, 16 again? Yeah, I think he can. So fine with him at 5.2. Tyon, don't love him by any means. I actually like the Angels quite a bit, which we'll talk about. But again, it's a slate where pitching is just not very good. And, I'm fine taking some risk. He's 5.5K. He'll probably be in my player pool for 150. Prefer Blanco over him. But, those are the only two down here. Don't necessarily love them, but it's like almost by necessity to take a look.
Yeah, one guy I did want to bring up, Cutter Crawford, in that same game there. Obviously, I like the side in BB. Both have the same pitching conditions, so I don't mind if you want to just go ahead and pair those two together. I think it's a viable route here. Obviously, I don't love picking on Cleveland. I've talked about this quite a bit. It's burned me a lot. Cleveland, 22nd worst matchup for strikeouts on the slate. But Cutter, pretty decent strikeout guy. I think he has some good stuff, 6,800. I don't hate it just because it's not a very good hitter's park or hitting conditions either. Wind blown in, 60 degrees, might even drop into the 50s by the end of that game. So I do think Cutter is kind of interesting there. And then nobody really else for me. I mean, if you want to, I would kind of be in lockstep there with you in the Blanco dude. But again, I mean, the Blue Jays, I don't like picking on them. 20% strikeout rate. I just don't know if he has the upside on this slate because what I've noticed, Hoop, is you got slates like this, right, where pitching is kind of ugly. You got a lot of these guys at the top that could very well go out there and throw good games, right? It's just hard to predict. So I just feel like this slate is, I mean, we're going to see some big scores at pitcher. It's just hard for me personally to pinpoint it. So I don't think I'm going to punt all the way down there with Blanco because I do think he also picks up more ownership now that the 4K guy just got scratched because we're going to talk about it. We got the Dodgers and the Giants far and away the two best teams on the slate in terms of offense. And those Dodgers, if you have tried to build a lineup with those Dodgers, the bats that you want are all very expensive. They do have some cheap pieces. So I do think Blanco just picked up more ownership for sure when you just lost the 4K pitcher that everyone was going to build those teams, fit in those Dodgers, fit in those Giants, and kind of build the same roster as everyone. Now I think it's a really easy pivot for them just to go to Blanco there. So watch his ownership throughout the night. I don't know if I can do it personally, but in MME, I do get the point there that you're making, Hoop. Before we go game by game, I see our guy Title Crown in the chat, Mr. Title Crown. We appreciate you tuning in over here. Obviously, excited to do some shows with you here coming up. Our newest addition to the SHIPIT Nation station over here on the admin side. He's going to be covering MMA. I know there's an MMA card coming up on Saturday. Dude absolutely crushes every sport that he touches. So excited for that. We appreciate you tuning in, Title. Hope we picked up. We're at 920 subscribers. So I know there's some still people in here that are probably watching that have not hit the subscribe button yet. Go ahead and do that if you haven't. Like button again would be great. And shipitnation.com, $59 a month, $5.99 for the year. Does get you access to the Founding Family membership as well. About $10,000 in free rolls in the next 6 months or so that we are going to be giving out strictly for those Founding Family members, along with plenty of giveaways coming up for NFL season. NBA will be around. I'll be giving out some stuff for NHL as well, strictly to Founding Family. We want to reward the people that have stuck with us, trusted in us, trusted in our product that we're rolling out over here. And like the analogy Tambo likes to do, right? The cell phone companies, cable companies, the newest customers get the best deal, right? The loyal ones kind of get shafted, right? And that's why you see all these people jumping. We wanted to flip the script there and reward our members that have trusted in us from the beginning. And as long as you don't cancel, you always be eligible for those. So $59 a month, $5.99 for the year. You got 5 days left to get in now at that price, and it will be going up, and we will not see that price again. So definitely head over shipitnation.com, sign up. We appreciate it a ton. Let's go game by game here, Hoop. Obviously, the first game of the slate got scratched in the White Sox and the Yankees, so that takes us to Arizona. Arizona broke the slate last night, went off, and now they get Mr. Patrick Corbin, and we know the drill with Patrick Corbin, right? People just blindly go in there and click names against Patrick Corbin because we know the kind of pitcher he is. D-backs have a healthy implied run total. I think they make a lot of sense here tonight. Nationals have been pretty pesky as of late. Pretty solid hitting conditions here as well. Pretty healthy implied total on both sides. Hoop, where are you going in this one?
Yeah, you got to be careful with the Tambo sayings. Like he's going to start picking up on some of your stuff. I don't know if you even noticed it, but you said when you referenced title, you said everything he touches, he crushes. I have a feeling, Tambo might have to take that one from you. I mean, these little Tamboisms add to the list. There's so many of them, and it just naturally starts happening. The more you work with Tambo, the more that you just naturally start to do that stuff, I've realized. So in regards to this game, the Diamondbacks and the Nationals, love picking on Patrick Corbin. I mean, one of my favorite pitchers to pick on. And the lineup, I kind of like for the most part. I mean, Rivera batting third. He's really cheap on both sides, 3.1 on DK, 2.6, I believe, on FanDuel. Christian Walker, under 4K, I think is a steal. I absolutely love him. I mean, just way, way too cheap. A good cash game option tonight. You got Ketel Marte at the top. Longoria, don't love playing him, but 2.8K if you don't want to play any of those cheap pitchers. Guys like this, become more appealing. And then the catcher, Moreno, 2.9K, interested there. Nick Ahmad, full punt at shortstop. So this is a team to definitely take a look at tonight. On the national side, they have a pretty respectable team total. I mean, this game has a 9.5 total in it. The Nationals coming in like right around 4.5. Tough team to get to. Joey Meneses, Corey Dickerson, I kind of like as a punt, 2.5K. CJ Abrams, I know you've brought him up in the past. There's some upside baked in with him. So for the Nats, definitely more of like a 3-man type stack. But the Diamondbacks, I mean, I'm gonna be loading up. I love picking on Patrick Corbin. Going to continue to do it tonight. This team is hot overall. It seems like the Diamondbacks have just been in the best spots for like 2 weeks straight now. Like every time you pull up a slate, they're facing a shitty pitcher. So going to continue to play some Diamondback bats here.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I do think the Diamondbacks make a lot of sense. You got some lefty mashers in there, and Christian Walker. I know you don't like Evan Longoria, but he does have a good price tag. Hits left-handed pitching very well. He's got 58 plate appearances against left-handed pitching this year, and he's got a ISO of close to 300. So I do think he makes a lot of sense. Even Moreno and down there at the bottom, Jake McCarthy, matter of fact, lefty, still hits very well, and that dude runs like a gazelle out there on the bases. So every time he touches first, he's one of those guys that's going to steal bases. I get the MLB steals alert, and I've seen his name have the little 2 in parentheses, 3 in parentheses a couple times this year already. So batting ninth down there, I think will keep ownership off him as well, especially with the lefty-lefty matchup. And he can hit left-handed pitching, and he's going to steal. You can steal on Corbin. You can steal on these Nationals here, and Arizona's not afraid to do it. I think they're top 5 in the league, if I'm not mistaken, in total stolen bases on the season so far. Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, Longoria are kind of my favorite there, but Corbin Carroll sneakily can actually hit left-handed pitching pretty well, especially over the sample size on the road this season. So overall, I mean, I think you can play these guys. The lefties will be lower owned for sure, lefty, but I'm not afraid of that Nationals bullpen behind Corbin, and we know the drill with Corbin as well. So the D-backs make a lot of sense too. On the Nats side, I think just more mini stacks. Candelario, I think makes some sense here. 4K. Some of these Nats price tags are coming up a little bit because they have been pretty pesky. They've been scoring runs. CJ Abrams still has a very nice price tag there at shortstop at 2,700. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's the exact same price tag as probably the chalkiest player on the slate, De La Cruz there for Cincinnati. So you want to talk about a nice little pivot there. Obviously, I love De La Cruz. I think he's kind of a free square here tonight, especially against Syndergaard, where, I mean, I think I could steal a base against Syndergaard. So I do think he's going to run wild, but a nice little pivot there in tournaments. CJ Abrams also has stolen base upside as well, has good expected ISO numbers, pretty low strikeout numbers as well. And Zach Davies on the D-back side, I'm not really afraid of too much. So I do think both of these teams make some sense here on this slate overall. Hoop, next game, it's your Astros. They treated you well, but I don't know if tonight's an Astros night against Bassett here. Obviously, Blanco for the Astros. You have some interest in him. But the Blue Jays do have over a 5 implied run total. Do you have interest on either side of this one for Bass?
Yeah, some. Before I get into that, though, we got 926 in terms of subscribers. I think we need 950. We didn't talk about it too deep in the opening. We need 950 to get to those plays at the end. So 24 more to go. I think it would be pretty simple, and also hit the like button. I mean, I talked about Blanco. Like, I'll play him just because pitcher sucks and he's cheap, 5.2K, and I'm pissed that we lost our 4K guy. Would have been fun to play another 4K guy. Obviously, won the $50,000 the other night with the 4K guy, so I planned on doing the same thing. But Blanco, I'm going to play as a cheap option, but I'm going to also play the Blue Jays bats. I mean, they have a huge team total here coming in over 5. I think just about top to bottom here in play for me. Can make the case for everyone. So Blue Jays top to bottom in play. Don't really want to pick on Bassett all that much. Yordan Alvarez, you can play on every slate. He'll be low owned tonight. Kyle Tucker, I think you can play. Maybe find one other random dude and play a mini, but those would be the two bats on the Astros that I have interest in. Blue Jays, top to bottom in play, and I'm also playing Blanco, so on kind of both sides of that one.
Yeah, Hoop. Something I learned when you just talk on both sides of the game. You like the pitcher and you also like the bats. Yeah, it's impossible to lose. So that's a very good tout strategy there. Now I'm playing with you, but it does definitely make some sense. Obviously, Blanco's likely going to pick up some steam here too. So Blue Jays, pretty healthy implied run total. You know the drill. I just have not played the Blue Jays. I'm probably not going to do it here tonight. But the one guy that I have played on the Blue Jays, and definitely my favorite bat on the Blue Jays side tonight as well, Matt Chapman, hitting right there in the middle of the lineup, 307 expected ISO against right-handed pitching. And Blanco, in his one start that he has made, allowed nearly a 10% barrel rate. So I do think Mr. Matt Chapman might find his way over the wall there in the 5-hole, 4,700 there. So I like him. And on the Astros side, I got one guy that I love, and it's he's expensive. You got to pay for him. 5,900. It's actually we've seen him more expensive than this. I should argue he should be the most expensive bat on the slate. The dude absolutely smashes right-handed pitching, especially on the road. Guaranteed ninth inning at bats as well. And they brought in they brought in that fence there in Toronto, right in right center there. Definitely helps out a guy like Yordan Alvarez who can hit it out of any park. He's our top-rated hitter over here at ShipItNation.com. And if you followed our tweets and followed our rankings over here, the one night, what was it? 5 of the top 6 all hit a bomb. So I got to trust our tools. I got to trust our metrics over here. And I like Yordan Alvarez quite a bit there. And you can always play Kyle Tucker right there, a nice little 4-5 stack. Pretty minimal ownership here against Bassett. Not to say that I'm going to go in and 5-man stack these Astros, because I do have some faith in Bassett on the Blue Jays side. But that little 2-man stack there should be very low owned, especially at those price tags. And I wouldn't sleep on it. And even your hero there, Yainer Diaz at the catcher position, 2,900, hits right-handed pitching very well as well. So I do think those 3 would be my favorite here. But overall, I'm not stacking either side of this game. Let's jump into the next game, Hoop, and it's the clear-cut chalk of the slate. Possibly Coors might push it. The Giants might push over. But either way, the Dodgers are going to be a focal point of this slate, what you're going to do with them. Personally, I'm loading the wagon. I just don't care. There's so many ways to get different in MLB DFS, and it's a spot I can't ignore. I mean, Brandon Williamson is just not good, and these Dodgers, guaranteed ninth inning at bats, they absolutely smash the ball on the road as well. And the Reds bullpen behind them, second best hitting conditions on the entire slate in Great American Small Park. It's be about 70, mid-70s, slight wind blowing out. Hard to ignore these Dodgers, but I think the Red side makes some sense as well. Second highest total on the slate. Hoop, where are you going in this one?
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers is in a phenomenal spot. Got the job done last night. I mean, they're going to, I don't know how many more games they have in Cincinnati. This might be it. I mean, you're just going to end up playing them every single slate. I mean, they're just going to be in a phenomenal spot. This is a great ballpark for hitting. And the Dodgers have one of the best lineups in baseball. The Reds have a really shitty pitching staff. So in on the Dodgers in every way, shape, form possible. I guess the one thing, kind of anticipated that this would be a very expensive stack, but man, it's really not that bad when you look at it. Like, oh yes, Mookie Betts is 5'8", Freddie Freeman is 5'4", Will Smith is 5'5" on DraftKings. But after that, you get some breaks. JD Martinez under 5K, Max Muncy under 5K. Then you get Chris Taylor 2.8, Vargas 3K, Johnny DeLuca 2.3, and Rojas 2.5. So it's going to be easy to stack these guys. Can play all these guys from top to bottom. Everyone knows it. They're going to be owned. But again, with these popular stacks, there's things you can do the old reach around like we talked about, wrap around, however you want to phrase it. Play some lower guys with some middle lineup guys, a lot of different ways to go. The Reds are pretty interesting as well, though, against Syndergaard. This total in this game sitting at 11, team total for the Reds right around 5. Ellie De La Cruz, we talked about him yesterday. Price came up a little bit, 2.7, still too cheap. Can definitely go to him. Just adding a bat like him in this lineup, it just increases their potential to score runs by a ton. I think the Reds are in play. They're going to be much lower owned than the Dodgers. But this game has a total of 11. It's a massive total for a non-Coors game. Very interested in both sides. Dodgers obvious plays, no doubt about it, but the Reds I think are very interesting as well.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I'm pushing the chips in on Dodgers, and I actually like the old reach around here. Miguel Vargas has been a stud.
Yeah.
Johnny De La Cruz, I just pulled up his metrics here in AAA this year. Obviously, AAA is not the same as the big leagues, but we've seen it with De La Cruz. What he hit, freaking 112-mile-an-hour gap shot yesterday to double, and strided around the bases like a gazelle. I think Johnny DeLuco, I mean, he's got 14 home runs on the year in AAA right now, 12 stolen bases as well. So he's not afraid to steal. And best hitting conditions on the slate, 2,300 is too cheap. 2K on FanDuel is too cheap for him. And we say it all the time, Hoop. These guys that are hitting 7th, 8th, 9th, even 6th sometimes in these lineups, they just lower ownership in general. People just have a hard time clicking them. I love Chris Taylor here as well. There is some slight pinch hit risk there with Chris Taylor, but I don't care. I mean, 2,800 is way too cheap for him. 536 expected ISO against left-handed pitching on the year. 536. That's the highest on the slate by far, and that's in 27 plate appearances. So it's not just a one game sample. That's pretty hard to ignore. And then obviously Mr. Freddie Freeman. I don't see how he doesn't go deep tonight. He came in last night, hit a grand slam, lefty, didn't matter. I love going right back to the well with him. I mean, he should be over 6K on this slate, especially in this matchup here. So overall, I mean, I love these Dodgers 1 through 9. They're firmly in play. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you that. On the Red side, these Reds are interesting because Syndergaard can't hold a runner on a base to save his life. Hoop, I think your son could go out there and steal some bases. Jonathan India, Jake Fraley, Stuart Fairchild all have – I mean, Fraley and India both have 11 and 12 stolen bases on the year. Fairchild has 7. Frito, I don't know if Frito's not in the lineup, is he? Yeah, no, he's not in the lineup. But De La Cruz, obviously, we know that kid can fly. He'll steal bases. Will Benson will steal bases. So these Reds have some nice baked-in upside here against Syndergaard. Obviously, it's the best pitcher, one of the best pitchers in the league to run on. And Will Smith does have a good arm behind the plate, but I still think these Reds will test it, test their luck here, because I'm assuming they will be trailing this game, so they're going to want to start stealing bases, get runners into scoring position here. On the Red side, De La Cruz I think is way too cheap still at 2,700. The dude absolutely murdered that ball out of the gap yesterday, right center, 112 miles an hour off the bat. It was nuts. Scored like 12 DraftKings points or something last night at 2K. He was 50% owned, but he should have been 100% owned. I could have argued at 2K in this matchup, in this ballpark. I think he can go right back. And I talked about it, Stuart Fairchild. I'll bring him up again. Batting 9th. He'll steal bases, and he does have some power. Don't sleep on him there in the 9 hole. 249 expected ISO against right-handed pitching. So I do like these guys quite a bit. Jake Fraley will run at the top there. Matt McLean will run at the top as well. So overall, this is probably my favorite game on the slate. I don't play Coors Field too much, so I do like this game quite a bit. Let's jump into the next game here, and I think it's a pretty easy cross-off spot for me personally for the bats. Red Sox heading into Cleveland. I like pitchers on both sides of this game. I'm out on bats, but Hoop, do you see something I'm missing?
Yeah, no, sir. I'm this game is coming in at the lowest total on the slate, or tied for the lowest total, sitting at 7.5. Nothing really stands out. I mean, Guardians are just not an appealing offense, even in good spots. Like, there's just not much there. They don't strike out like we always talk about, but in terms of producing runs, it's just not there. And then, you and I both like BB. I think he's in a good spot. Red Sox offense typically struggles outside of Fenway. This game's a fade for me. I'm cool moving on.
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with you here. I'm just not going to go to anyone in this one. Obviously, you can always play a guy like Rafael Devers. But overall, not excited to play anyone in this game. I like the pitchers, so pretty easy cross-off spot. Let's talk about Truist Park here. Let's talk about the Braves. Let's talk about the Mets. Both have over 4.5 implied run totals. The Braves approaching 5. Hoop. We got Scherzer on the mound. We got Charlie Morton, 2 very solid pitchers here. I wouldn't be surprised for either one of these pitchers to go out there and post a winning score for DraftKings scoring tonight or FanDuel. But these bats, both teams have a pretty healthy implied run total. Obviously, it's the park, it's the weather. But do you have any interest in the bats here, or are you staying away?
Yeah, it's definitely the thing that stands out here. You look at the names, the guys that are pitching, Max Scherzer, Charlie Morton, like, all right, I'm not going to come here for offense. Then you look at that total, and it's sitting at 9.5, and you look at the Braves team total sitting at 5, and the Mets sitting at 4.5. You're like, okay, what do I go with here? For me personally, probably more one-offs with the bats here. Guys like Acuna, guys like Riley, Rosario is fine on the Mets side. Pete Alonso, Lindor's fine. One-offs or 3-man stacks, I think, are fine. I'm not going to go all in here and do like a 5-man stack on either side because of how good these pitchers are. But Vegas is telling us another story. I mean, Vegas is telling us that we should be looking at bats here. But I can't do 5-mans here. It'd just be one-offs, 3-mans, and I'm not necessarily pushing any of these bats into my lineup. If they hit, they hit. But it is a very interesting situation because, like you said, it wouldn't be shocking at all if Max Scherzer has a great game. Wouldn't be shocking at all if Charlie Morton has the game that you need to win on DraftKings. Very confusing game. But, yeah, on offensive side, one-offs and 3-mans. That's all I'm going to be doing here.
Yeah, I think the weather and the wind has something to do with it. I'm seeing about 8 to 10 mile an hour winds the entire duration of the game, blowing out to left field here. Mid-80s in Truist Park here in Atlanta. Typically pretty humid as well in Atlanta, so the ball does tend to fly. You saw Pete Alonso go deep last night here. I think it's a good spot again for Pete Alonso. Just any slate he's on, you can always play him. Francisco Alvarez down there in the 9-hole catcher has pretty good numbers again. Right-handed pitching as well. The Mets would be probably my preferred just because I believe in Max Scherzer more than I believe in Charlie Morton. And the Mets just don't strike out. I mean, 18% strikeout rate this entire lineup has against right-handed pitching. So maybe the Mets do it again. But, yeah, mini stacks for me only in this game. And I don't mind mini stacks on both sides. I mean, these Braves at home do have very good expected ISO numbers against right-handed pitching. Max Scherzer has been known to give up home runs. Matt Olson sitting right there at first base. If you want the Freddie Freeman pivot, I think you go right there to Matt Olson, 5,700. Expected ISO number over 360 against right-handed pitching at home in Truist Park here. So definitely makes some sense. Ronald Acuna, obviously, you can always steal bases. Austin Riley, Sean Murphy, even Ozuna. Ozuna's been pretty solid, and people don't like to click Marcell Ozuna's name because obviously he does have the strikeouts that come along with it. But he does the strikeouts happen because he's swinging for the fence. So he pops a bomb at 3,200. You get those 14 DraftKings points. You're sitting pretty there too because obviously Scherzer's going to get ownership as well. So mini stacks for me only in this game. Not 5-man stacking either one of these. It's just hard for me to envision either one of these teams outscores the Dodgers or outscores the Giants or even possibly the Rangers here on this slate overall. Next game, I think it's pretty easy stay away from me. Obviously, we both like Corbin Burns pitching at home here against these Orioles. No interest for me personally on the Orioles side. On the Brewers side, I'm just not thrilled to play any Brewers bats. Hoop, do you see something I'm missing? I know you got your beloved Rowdy Tellez there in the 4-hole tonight, but 4,400 is a hefty price tag to play with how he's been playing right now.
Yeah, we've done enough MLB shows where you're starting to pick up on my guys, and Tellez is one of my guys. He's 4.4K. He'll always be in the player pool for me, so I don't even need to mention it. But outside of that, not a ton on the Brewers side. I mean, this game, low total, sitting at 8. You can play Yelich. We've talked about Owen Miller quite a bit. He's having a good season. So a couple guys here in play. Not going to force them in my lineups like we kind of talked about, but Corbin Burns is going to be my guy tonight. There's just not many pitching options. I think he's the guy up top. So I won't be playing any Orioles bats, just those few Brewers guys that I like, and then one that obviously I have a man crush on, I guess, Tellez.
Yeah, man crush is right. I mean, if that's what you want to call it, hey, if that's what makes the wife sleep at night, hey, I ain't going to judge here. But, yeah, overall, not a ton of interest here. Bryce Terang will not be in the lineup. He did get optioned to AAA, so I did see that. Not that you were going to play him anyways there, but, I mean, he was a cheap option there at second base. Sometimes people land there and just click his name. Owen Miller. I mean, Owen Miller's been good. He's probably my favorite hitter in this lineup, but I don't think I get to anyone in this game overall. Hope, before we we got 3 games left here. We're sitting at 933 subscribers, 17 subs to get to 950 to get the plays of the day, the home run call, the pitcher call, which pitcher's ugly on tonight's slate, so the pitcher call might come in handy. We've given out some good ones. Tristan McKenzie, the list goes on and on. Tommy Henry, the list goes on. But let's see if the people respond. We got about 240 people, give or take, watching in here. Sitting at 118 likes. That's pretty good, but we should be at about 200 likes. So let's see if you have not clicked the like button already, please go ahead and do that. Again, the show is brought to you by SHIPITNation.com. And we're a tools-oriented projections site. Obviously, we have the cores, we have the content. We're in the Discord answering questions, but we don't like to just spoon-feed cores and kind of send you on your way. We want you to leverage our tools, leverage our proprietary information, proprietary projections, and be able to build competitive winning lineups by yourself with, obviously, our help. We still post our cores. Who posts his cash core? Who posts his GPP plan? I post my single entry core where my main lineup, my route I'm going is. But I use the tools that all of our members over here at SHIPIT Nation do use as well. And sometimes everyone else has their own personal bias. They read the tools, they read the information differently than I do. So that's the best part about having tools available to use to build competitive lineups. $59 a month does get you access to all of that, $5.99 for the year, along with many other benefits of the founding family, including over $10,000 in giveaways. Boop. Next game on the slate here, we got the Cardinals, we got the Rangers. Rangers at home against a right-handed pitcher, and it's Jack Flaherty, who I'm not super afraid of. Obviously, he has had some pretty good games this season. He might pick up some ownership just from the game log watchers alone here, but I just can't sign up, especially a guy like Jack Flaherty against these Rangers at home. So I'm not going to Flaherty here, but the Cardinals do have some guys in the lineup that make some sense. Guaranteed ninth inning at bats against John Gray. I know you have interest in John Gray, who's been very good. So I don't know if I get to the Cardinals personally. On the Rangers side, this is kind of a watered-down lineup for what we have seen, but they still do have their big boys at the top of the lineup. Are you going to any of these guys over here for Texas?
Well, the first thing that stands out on the Rangers side is the price tags, and their main guys are basically more expensive than the Dodgers. You look at the Dodgers stack versus the Rangers stack, it's at least comparable in terms of the pricing with like the top 5 guys. And it makes it hard to stack them, to be honest. They do have some cheap guys at the bottom that you can play. Jankowski, Grossman, Smith, Leone, all under 3K, but I don't really like those guys all that much. Flaherty I don't think is great, but like these Rangers guys, I don't know if I can get to them because of the price tags, to be honest with you. So I'm not going to have a ton on the Rangers side. On the Cardinals side, since we started doing the show and I've made the changes in my content, I made a big shift to John Gray. I actually really like John Gray tonight. And looking at this lineup, yeah, there's some guys in there that can do some damage. Goldschmidt, Arenado, but I think John Gray is a very good option tonight. So I've kind of sold myself on John Gray, so I'll be off the Cardinals bats. Rangers guys, they're too expensive. I mean, we have some good spots that I want to get to. The Dodgers, we got the Giants coming up here in a minute. Got the Angels. I don't think I can get to the Rangers tonight either.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm off the Cardinals here. I do like one Rangers bat in particular. I do think they're in play just because I will preach till I'm blue in the face. Right-handed pitching, you target the Rangers when they're at home. They can always hit it, and they've been scoring runs by the truckload as of late. So Jonah Heim right there in the middle, catcher, 4,600. He does grade out pretty well on all the StatCast, launch angle data, average exit velocity, all that. Against a little lefty-righty action here too for him. So I think he makes some sense right in the middle of that lineup. Josh Young, Nate Lowe, Corey Seager, Semien would be my other preferred. Just those guys at the top there, not really messing with any of these guys at the bottom, Robbie Grossman, Josh Smith, Sandy Leon. I just can't do it. So Rangers probably more of a mini stack for me, just at those price tags, but it is a talking point because it is a pivot off the Giants and the Dodgers. And would it be crazy to think the Rangers just continue to put up runs here at home? Not nuts, and maybe this is Flaherty's blow-up game here. So don't sleep on the Rangers, but overall, not a ton of interest for me personally. Just playing 2 to 3 teams here tonight. Next game, it's the game of the night. Coors Field. Obviously, the Rangers approaching 7 implied team total, which is absurd. But they're facing Connor Seabold, who is not a good pitcher by any means here, and the Rockies bullpen behind him is definitely below average. So these Giants, we saw some pinch hit risk last night. The Rockies do have one more left-handed pitcher in their bullpen that they can throw out there tonight. So there is some minor pinch hit risk here. But, I mean, if the Giants go out there and drop 7-8 runs in the first inning, I don't think it's really going to matter. And maybe your guy already did the damage. So the bullpen for the Rockies primarily is right-handed. So a lot of these lefties, which likely the Giants are going to load their lineup with, is left-handed bats, Lamonte Wade, Jock Pederson, Conforto, those guys. Talk on the Giants because I know obviously you like them quite a bit. Personally, I have the Dodgers ahead of them, but can't fault anyone for going to Coors Field here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I like the Dodgers over Giants if choosing one. The thing about the Giants here, there is some weather in this game, and I think it's fine, good to go, but it's the only game with the potential for like rain and thunderstorms and whatnot. So maybe that keeps some people off the Giants. Like that's the hope. Lineup still not out. I mean, they've been late kind of rolling out their lineups most late, so it's no surprise, but maybe that brings down the ownership again. But massive team total, like you said, sitting almost up to 7 at this point. They got the job done last night, and man, they're just like cheap, like way too cheap for a team with a team total of 6. Like they're all, I mean, Jock Peterson at 4.1K, Lamont Wade 3.9K. It's like a cheap team in Coors. So yeah, they're going to get some ownership. Hopefully those couple factors, bring it down a little bit. The weather, and then the fact the lineup's still not out. On the Rockies side, I'm not going to play the Rockies here. Definitely like Logan Webb. Don't like Logan Webb for DFS tonight. I think Logan Webb is good enough to pitch in Coors Field. So I'll be off the Rockies, and definitely going to be on the Giants. See what this lineup puts out there for us, but it's looking like it's going to be a cheap team in terms of stacking tonight.
Yeah, especially on FanDuel, they're pretty reasonably priced. Even on DraftKings, I mean, 3,300 Crawford, 3,600 Bailey, Haniger, 3,700 home run hitter, Lamonte Wade, 3,900, probably going to be leading off there. Overall, I mean, these Giants, no surprise. My second stack probably on the slate here. I really like Jock Pederson, J.D. Davis, Conforto, Haniger right there in the middle. Even Yastrzemski, Patrick Bailey, if he does make the lineup. He didn't play last night, so I do think he's going to be in there tonight. So I like that. I like 3 through 9 here, actually. Leave some of those guys. Theo Estrada went off last night to like 17 DraftKings points, I think. He's 5K, the most expensive guy on this team. Second base is a pretty weak position. Obviously, Mookie Betts is there, but outside of that, there's not a ton. So he's definitely going to get some ownership there, especially after coming off a big game. I prefer the back half of this lineup more. Just naturally goes lower owned, and that's just a slight way to be different. I know you preach on that quite a bit. On the Rocky side, I can't pick off any of these Rockies personally against Logan Webb. I wouldn't be surprised Logan Webb goes in here and mows down these Rockies, even though it is Coors Field. K rate sitting right around 27%. He's got right around league average in terms of barrel percentage, and average innings pitch is close to 7. So he tends to go pretty long into the games here. And these Rockies, I mean, you got Nolan Jones who's striking out at nearly a 50% clip. Even Ryan McMahon, their best power bat, strikes out over 30% against right-handed pitching at home. Austin Winans down there at the bottom of the lineup, he's nearly a 40% strikeout rate. So I do think the strikeouts can be there for Logan Webb. So I wouldn't sleep on him, even though it is Coors Field. Last game of the night here, Hoop. You had some interest in the Cubs last night. They did fine. But these Angels, seems like a pretty good spot here for these Angels against Tyon here, who 21% strikeout rate, barrel rate over 10%, and these Angels are starting to hit the ball. Obviously, Ohtani went deep last night. I think Taylor Ward went deep as well. And these price tags aren't super pricey outside of Ohtani and Trout. I know you have the Angels written up on your premium content over here. Talk on the Angels and then any interest on the Cubs side as well.
Yeah, I think it's a really good spot for the Angels. I think they have a chance to go, lower owned than they should be. Not going to be low owned, but, lower owned than they should be. Dodgers will be ahead of them. Blue Jays, Diamondbacks, Giants. So I could see them being like the 5th or 6th highest owned stack. Lineup still not out. The only, true late game here. It's an hour after, the previous late game, the Giants and the Rockies. So I'm in on the Angels. Very cheap on FanDuel. Like Trout is 3.6K. Ohtani is under 4K over there. And then on DraftKings, they're cheap outside of those two. Everyone else is super cheap. So it's an easy team to stack if you still want to pay up at pitcher. I'm in on the Angels in a very big way tonight. I think they have a chance to be 5th or 6th highest owned team, and that interests me quite a bit. A lot of upside on the Cubs side. Not a ton. I like Berea. We talked about him. Not a ton of pitching options. I think he is one of the viable pitching options on this slate. So not going to be really on the Cubs all that much, but very, very interested in the Angels.
Yeah, I like that. Angels have an implied run total approaching 5 as well, so Vegas tends to agree pretty good. Ohtani should be pretty low owned. Obviously, the drill with him. He can always hit a bomb, but Brandon Drury, Hunter Renfroe down there. Obviously, Renfroe was not in the lineup last night. Definitely keep an eye on. We won't have that lineup probably maybe before lock, but it typically comes out pretty late being on the West Coast there, about 3 hours after lock time here. So I do think these Angels, Brandon Drury, Hunter Renfroe, Matt Thaiss, Mike Trout, Ohtani, Taylor Ward would be my preferred. But up and down, I think you can play these guys, and they definitely can hit some bombs in Angel Stadium. On the Cubs side, not a ton of interest. Christopher Morel, Matt Mervis down there, and should hit towards the bottom of that lineup. They both have power, but they both strike out a ton too. So it's kind of a boom-bust play, just kind of contrarian options that can hit home runs. Guaranteed 9th inning at bats, but I'm not stacking the Cubs by any means. And I do like the Angels side quite a bit. They might be 3rd or 4th favorite stack on this team on this slate overall. But hope that does it. Let me refresh this. See what the people got us home to. 935, a little hurtful. But I think I'm still going to give them the plays. Hoop. Obviously, we have about 260 watching here, so we appreciate y'all. A lot of these are probably already subscribers as well. But if you have not already subscribed, do please hit that subscriber button. Once we get to 1,000, we are doing a giveaway right here on this YouTube channel on one of our free shows. Hit that like button as well. But Hoop, let's go ahead and kick it over to you. Give me your pitcher call. Give me your home run call. Where are you going tonight?
Yeah, my pitcher call kind of evolved as we went on through the show, and I think you probably know where I'm going with this, but it's John Gray. I think John Gray is a phenomenal play tonight. Shouldn't have much ownership. I'm cool with the matchup versus the Cardinals. I think there's just a ton of upside with him. So John Gray is going to be my pitcher call. The hitter call is a little more challenging, but I will go with a catcher, okay? And don't do this very often. I'm going to go with Moreno for the Diamondbacks, batting 8th, 2.9K. Has some upside. He's going to be my home run call. So him and John Gray.
Yeah, no, I like those calls quite a bit. John Gray, I definitely have to dig into a little bit more. I don't like picking on St. Louis a ton, but won't surprise me. John Gray's been very solid. My pitcher, he's going to get ownership, but I really don't care. I'm going to Tanner Beebe. Talked about it quite a bit on this roster, this Boston roster here. Very, very good, favorable pitching conditions here in Cleveland. And I think he can get the job done. 8,500, pretty nice price tag there. I won't be surprised if he does post an SP1 score on the slate overall. And my hitter, I'm gonna go to probably one of the most chalky teams on the slate here, but I'm going to go to a bat that I think goes under owned. I'm going to Chris Taylor in the 6 hole there. I think Chris Taylor does go deep tonight at least once. Smashes left-handed pitching. Very nice price tag on both sides. 2,800 on FanDuel DraftKings 2,800, 2,700 on FanDuel. I love him. I love the Dodgers. Dodgers are my favorite stack. I'm probably going to have 100% Dodgers exposure tonight across my lineups, and Chris Taylor is going to go deep tonight. Hope that's going to do it for the show. Any final remarks to add for the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, just trying to build up this channel. Let's try to get to that 1,000 number by the end of the week. How about that? We didn't hit the 950 today. Let's get to 1,000 by Friday. We're going to have some free shows. We'll have an MMA show as well this week, so make sure you tune into that. It's going to be Friday afternoon. But let's get to 1,000 by the end of the week. And like I said, the more this channel grows, the more free videos that we'll be putting on this channel for you guys. So we appreciate all the support so far. None of this would be possible without the support of you guys. So let's continue to grow this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The sport's been incredible. We love it. We're going to continue to give you guys more tools, more proprietary information, and continue to help you guys build competitive winning lineups for a very affordable rate in this industry. That's going to do it for us, for Hoop, myself, Nades. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.